Hello and welcome to Prototech's Mastercam 2024 rollout video series. In this video, we're going to take a look at mill turn and lathe enhancements. The first enhancement we see in Mastercam 2024 is a solid chaining tolerance. In previous versions, if we did solid chaining in lathe, the tolerance was default at 10 thou and was locked. We couldn't edit it, making solid chaining difficult to use at times. In 2024, you see here on the right side of the slide, the tolerance now defaults at 1 thou and it's an editable value, so now I can pick up smaller features and tighten and edit the tolerance as needed. Also in 2024, we see some enhancements to the roughing pattern. I get variable depth in my rough turning. I've had this function for a while, but it was limited to plus or minus 25%. It is no longer limited. I can go all the way to 100%. Let's take a look at these couple of functions. So here I have a part set up. I'm going to do a rough turn on it. Here's my solid chaining, a new default tighter tolerance. I can tighten it, but this tolerance is tight enough to pick up the features on this part. I'll say rough from there to there. So there's the new solid chaining that exists before. The tolerance is new. And what also is new here is I can now do a variable depth of cut greater than 25%. So this used to be limited at 25%, but now I can go to say 50 or 100%. So if I put that at 50% and take a look at this, when I have 50% in there, it starts at my 100 thou depth cut and then reduces the depth cut by 50% during the cut. And then the next path is straight. So it starts with a lighter cut and ends up with a deeper cut. Here's the deeper cut and then go to lighter. And the idea behind this function is I'm changing where the chip breaks along the insert to help increase insert life. So we've had this for a while. It's just that we can now go to greater percentages, or I could even go all the way to 100%. So now I basically start with a 100 thou deep cut all the way out to basically 0, and then the next one is straight, so I'll start with nothing all the way to the 100 thou. I can also go negative. It just reverses the pattern, so I'll do negative 50. So that reduces my cut depth by 50% at the beginning, and then I get all the way to my full depth at the end. But then the next pattern, the next cut is straight again too. That basically gives me variable locations along my insert where the chip is breaking to help increase my insert life. We also see some enhancements to the B-axis contour. The B-axis contour is only available in the mill turn product, and to utilize it, you do need a multi-axis head. So you need a 5-axis head in the machine, something that has, say, a B tilt. The B-axis turning was new a few versions ago, and we're continuing to see enhancements made to it to make it better, more usable as we get feedback. In the past, in the B-axis contour, we just could define a usable depth for the insert. It tries to there's an automatic function in it where it uses that depth to figure out the tilting angles and adjust the tilting angles while cutting. We now have a new interface and we can do more than that. We get kind of point-to-point control. Here's what it kind of looks like. I can go in on the advanced motion control. Instead of, I just had the old depth option before, now I have a manual option, and it takes me to on the screen where I get a green and red dot, and I can just drag them dots. So if I want to use more of one side of the insert and less of the other, I can now do that. In the past, I just set depth, so it's basically equal on both portions of the insert. Or I could also drag this red dot near to the tip of the cutter and say, just try to use the leading face to cut. I also, to my B-axis contour, get adjust stock. Users that have been using Mastercam Lathe for a while, this function is available in our other toolpaths and our roughing. So it wasn't in B-axis turning before. It's been added, and they updated the interface. It's kind of this dot function again. We kind of had trim one way or trim the other way, and the wording was a little confusing. Now it's just nice and graphical user interface. It behaves the same. It's just a different interface element. I like this new interface. I'm kind of hoping to see this in the other portions of the other toolpaths as well. Hopefully that this makes its way into the other turning toolpaths for just stock. This drag and drop dot, it only gives you a few options, option A or B, but it's just more user friendly and graphical, and Instead of kind of guessing what button to hit, it's way easier to use. And one of the coolest things they added here to the B-axis, in my opinion, is we've always had the ability to have like automatic or manual mode. But manual mode, I had to draw in like axis control lines, kind of reminiscent of, say, the curve 5-axis toolpath, but I had to draw a geometry and then I could pick it. What's new in 2024 is we can basically, there's always this automatic mode. We can go to modified, kind of down on the bottom over here, then on the basic motion control page. In modified, it just gives me green arrows, kind of basically what it figured out for its automatic mode. But I can go into modified and then just click on those arrows and move them. I basically had this control before, but I had to draw a bunch of geometry. Now I can do it just right live on the screen without drawing. It's really quite neat. So in this file, I have a B-axis contour turning the inside profile. To see the inside profile, I'm going to go to my planes here and turn on my section view, and I have the top set as a section view that slices the part here. That was a new enhancement a few years ago, but I can see the internal features of the part now. So I mean, this internal shape, without a B-axis head in the machine and this B-axis contour, that'd be essentially impossible to cut with one tool. But with B-axis contour, I can tilt the head while cutting, and now I can achieve cuts like this. So right now it's just on the automatic mode. And I can see it's already kind of an angle, but it can tilt the tool. Here we can see what it can do. It can tilt the tool while cutting. Once I get into here, I wouldn't be able to reach it at that angle. But if I kind of tilt my tool, now I can reach it. So that's the automatic mode. And what I have now is I can easily edit that without having to draw geometry. If I go into the parameters, I can go to the basic motion control page, and I now have modified. I can hit the white arrow, and it just pops up green arrows on the screen where what is basically using and blending for axis control lines. I can click on any of these arrows, and I get a preview of the tool, and it stops upon a collision. It won't let me collide. It kind of stops there, but I can manually edit it. And if I want to add extra arrows anywhere I can, I just double click anywhere where I want to add an axis control. It shows me basically where the tool is tilted there. It's just the average between those other two arrows, but then I can take and modify that as well. So it just gives me real quick, easy ways to modify it. It's really slick. Great new enhancement to the B-axis contour. You do need that 5-axis head like that there to do something like that in the turning environment. We also see some simulation enhancements to the mill turn product. In our previous video, we looked at simulation and verify enhancements. Those same ones are in the mill turn and the machine simulation. We have some extra ones as well specific to mill turn, as we now can do a collision checking and a stop condition based on tool orientation. A few years ago, we had enhancements where we could build 3D lathe tooling, and that has greatly expanded what we can do with our lathe tooling in Mastercam. It's been a great enhancement, but it's a little bit of a process. You have to kind of define, how the tool is mounted in the machine and the insert up and down direction. And sometimes people miss a step and make a mistake. And if you don't define that right, it'll try to turn the spindle on the wrong way. And sometimes it would get missed. And then, that's not great if you go to the machine. So this helps catch that before getting to the machine. You can turn on the stop condition or the collision report of tool orientation being wrong, and if it sees that the spindle is trying to spin opposite of the way that your insert is facing, you'll get a warning here in simulation. That basically means you built your tool wrong. You got to go back and fix your tool to fix this error. So that's a neat enhancement to help catch mistakes before they go to the machine. Also in 2024, we gain mill turn angled head support. This is for turret machines. So there's kind of a picture of it in the machine there and some pictures on the side. So they do have things where I can add basically aggregate head tooling to my turret machines, and we can now support that in the mill turn product in Mastercam 2024. Now this does not just automatically work. You would have to have an updated post. Post changes need to be made. You'd have to, for the mill turn product, we get some generic tool locators in the file, but sometimes we got to add tool locators for what we have. You'd have to have a tool locator built for the angled head. So it does have a few prerequisites on it before, but now I can program, code, and simulate angled heads and turrets in mill turn in Mastercam 2024. So here I have a turret machine loaded up, and I have some angled faces, and I would have to 3D that on unless I had, say, angled head in my turret. So I'm going to do it like I have an angled head. I'm just going to do a facing path, that chain, select a tool. And now here's where I need to tell it's an angled head. There are a couple methods of doing this in Mastercam Mill, and this is similar, or router, and this is similar to one of the methods. So this isn't completely new, but there are different ways of doing it. So in here, I have to come in and right click on the tool, and I can say get angled head. That takes me to the tool loader page. That's similar to hitting this button kind of back here. So if you're using mill turn, this page may look similar. And what I have, as I mentioned, I have to have these built as a locator. So I do have locators built here. I'm going to run this in the upper turret. So I got to scroll down to my upper turret ones here. And here I have a live tool aggregate head built. So I'll expand my upper turret and I'll take a look here. I'm at tool number 2 for this 3/8 end mill. So I'll drag this aggregate to turret station number 2 there. And then I can drag this tool onto that, and then I can just, this is the same as my tool loader function again. I could say view component and children. I can see kind of what that looks like on my machine, and this is, these can be adjustable. Usually you kind of set them and lock them, but you can see how that one's straight. This is set up as an adjustable, and when you define it, you have to define the the center of rotation. So this can be used for multiple angles. Now at the machine, it probably can't be used. You have multiples for multiple angles because it's probably locked in. But it does make it versatile, so you don't have to build one for every angle. And then I can continue on my process. Once I do that, I get a new option. Normally I wouldn't have plane rotation on a turret machine here, but now because I got that aggregate put in there, I can do a plane rotation. And this is an awesome function in mill turn. If you haven't seen this in mill turn, this is one of the great workflow enhancements. If you're looking at what I was doing and you're like, well, you need to build a plane before you do that tool path. And that's true in milling, but here in mill turn, I picked enough geometry where I can just derive a plane from that geometry. I don't even have to build a plane first. It'll build, here's the name, it's going to build this plane on the fly just as part of my toolpath. I don't need to build a plane first. It's really slick and awesome. That's not new in 2024. It's just a great feature. I'm going to go to my cut parameters real quick. I'll probably maybe do a zigzag, and then if I just preview that, I'll have a few issues here. Maybe I want to change I'm kind of running into that flat there. So I'll change my cut angle maybe to 90 degrees. And then this is how far it goes over it. Maybe I can't go quite that far over the edge there, so I don't run into that kind of larger diameter. I'll preview that. That looks pretty usable. I probably don't need to worry about even number of passes. There we go. That should backplot and verify, but I'm going to show it in the machine sim. If you're not familiar with mill turn, this is a little bit different workflow too. When I hit the G1, it doesn't post the code. It takes me into Code Expert, where if I have multiple turrets, I can put in wait commands and I can then post the code or run simulation. So here's where the G1 button takes me. I don't have any multiple turret cuts in here. I didn't add any cuts to the lower turret. So I'm just going to take these cuts and launch simulation, or the G1 button there can post the code. Often for the simulation, I like to hide the housing so I can see the components a little bit easier. Here's where we had some new enhancements too. We can do the tool orientation stop event, or we can add the tool orientation to one of the collision checking options. I'll play my simulation. I can already see my right angle head in the turret there, already tilted at the right angle. So first I turn it down, and then I can mill that flat on. And that concludes Prototech's Mastercam 2024 rollout video series for mill turn and lathe enhancements. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to check out our other rollout videos, and we'll see you again next year.